On this week's show, we complain about how broken Ryze is and go over the 5.11 patch notes. All that and more on this week's Waypoint. What's up, guys, and welcome to Waypoint, your weekly League of Legends recap. I'm your host, Kat Andresco. We have a ton of 5.11 patch notes to go over this week, but first up, let's talk about the current state of Ryze. If you've been playing on 5.10 or watching the LCS, it is painfully obvious that Ryze has some issues. On our last episode, I mentioned how there is a very thin line between Ryze being under or overpowered. Well, Ryze, who has always been a late-game monster, is now a complete powerhouse throughout the game. He's now got the damage as well as literally the most powerful, most spammable CC in the entire game. I have no idea how the 5.10 Ryze buffs made it to live servers, but I honestly can't remember a champion balancing misstep this big. I'm pretty sure he's going to be significantly nerfed in the patch after 5.11, but until then, he should be the #1 priority in picks and bans. Alright, now with that out of the way, let's talk patch 5.11. Keep in mind that at the time of recording this episode, we don't have the official patch notes, but they should be up by the time you watch this. We're going off the PBE notes, but we're so close to the actual patch going live, they should be probably 99% accurate. First up, Aatrox, who was forced to be reckoned with in Season 3, hasn't been seen in a long time. So Riot is giving his Revive passive a substantial buff, scaling back the cooldown over time as he levels. Previously, it was 225 seconds at all ranks, but now, by the time he hits level 16, the cooldown is just 150 seconds. Riot has said they want to do more for Aatrox in the long term, but this definitely isn't a bad start. Caitlyn also isn't the sniper she once was, although I don't think she's in a terrible place. Her bonus damage headshot passive will now ignore 50% of a champion's bonus armor. That's a significant buff, especially in the current meta of tanks diving the backline. On top of that, her ultimate now grants vision at the start of the cast, instead of the start of the channel. That's definitely a nice quality of life buff for all Caitlyn players out there. Echo, on the other hand, is getting some minor nerfs. His move speed is going down by 5, which would be a bigger deal if he wasn't such a mobile champion already. The mana cost of his W at early levels is going to go up quite a bit, which will definitely hurt his laning phase more than anything. Well, it would hurt his laning phase if he didn't have a free teleport back to base with his ultimate, and when I say free, I really mean free. His ultimate currently costs no mana, for some reason. Those 3 points you would have spent on his ultimate, you can now put into his regular skills, leveling them up to rank 6. That's right, rank 6, not rank 5 like every other champion in the game. We have a lot more changes to go over, but first I want to thank this week's sponsor, Elder Scrolls Online. Are you a fan of Skyrim? I mean, who isn't, right? Well, Elder Scrolls Online is kinda like Skyrim, but you play with thousands of people online. It's a massively multiplayer online game set in the Elder Scrolls universe. It's got great combat, great story, and best of all, no subscription fee like other MMOs. ESO just launched on both the Xbox One and PS4. And of course, it's also available on PC and Mac. Just head on over to gboffer.com/ESO to check the game out. And just by going to that link, you are directly helping support this show. So thank you. LeBlanc is definitely an assassin you want to be afraid of right now. Riot is lowering the speed on her distortion and lowering the width of her chains. These are hard changes to judge on paper, but I've got a feeling that LeBlanc players will still find a way to f people up. It definitely does give people more of an opportunity to outplay her though, which is nice. Next up, these Malphite W changes are awesome! Previously, the ability passively gave his basic attack splash damage and actively gave additional armor and attack damage for 6 seconds. Now, it passively gives Malphite a scaling 10 to 30% armor increase at times, which is massive. Actively, it now buffs his basic attack damage, makes his attack splash, and scales with ability power. This is a huge buff to the consistent tankiness of Malphite, and a reasonable buff to AP Malphite, who's really been missing damage since we lost DFG. Interesting change to Sivir, one of the most dominant AD carries at the moment, in large part thanks to her ultimate. Her ulti currently gives her and her allies 60% speed, scaling down to 20% over time, and lasts for 8 seconds. It still does all that, but it gets to 20% a second or two faster, depending on the rank. Interesting nerf, but I think Sivir is still top tier. The power of mood speed just cannot be undervalued. Shen's magic resist and magic resist per level is going up. The cooldown on his passive is going down a bit at certain levels, and the energy cost of his dash now scales down to 80 from 100. Overall, some pretty nice changes, and Shen still brings some unique strengths to the table. Shyvana's Burnout now deals 25% of its damage again when Shyvana auto-attacks an enemy while Burnout is active. This could be to try to get her back in the jungle, but I don't see that happening while the current top-tier junglers are as good as they are. I don't really know why Riot is buffing Shyvana at a time when she's really strong with teleport and smite in the top lane, but alright. That does it for this week's episode of Waypoint. For more video game news and content, head on over to GameBreaker.tv. Be sure to check back every week for the latest League of Legends news. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it to help us reach more people. And if you want more League of Legends content, recaps, and updates, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, LolNation TV. I'm Kat Andresco. You can follow me on Twitter @KatAndresco. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you at the next Waypoint.